Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to today's episode of the Girls in Property podcast. So we have something a little bit different for you today, which I'm super excited about because you know me, I always like to mix things up and make the podcast a little bit sort of different. So today I have somebody very special on the podcast, and I'm very excited to say it is her first podcast that she is ever doing, which is super exciting. We started our journey at a similar time together, and what I wanted to show you all is somebody who, like me, has not been in the industry for a heap amount of time, but has achieved so much. And I want today to really inspire you, the listener, to think to yourself that you can do it too. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce you to Heather Littleton. Hey, Heather.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. You feeling good? You ready?
Yes, I am. I'm good, thank you.
I love it. Do you know what's so interesting is I remember when we first sort of met, which was at a particular training academy. And what was so interesting was the fact that you have this outgoing personality, but I know that you are also quite a shy person at the same time. And yet you've gone on to do so many things and even hosting your own network and everything. And I've just seen you sort of go into your own spotlight, which I love. And I think it would be so encouraging for other listeners who maybe have a similar personality to think that they can do it too. So I'm so happy to get you on today to sort of show everybody that.
Absolutely. I describe myself as an introverted extrovert. I think you summarised myself quite well there. I am outgoing and I do sort of put myself in positions where, that makes me scared. But equally, I know that's sort of the way that I've grown over the years. And yeah, I'm sure we're going to dive into that a little bit more soon.
Absolutely. So, for those who don't know you on the podcast who are listening, could you please start by introducing yourself, telling everyone a bit about your background, where you are now, and some interesting things about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Heather Littleton. I am based in the Midlands, Northamptonshire, Milton Keynes sort of area. And I am an accidental entrepreneur, you could say. So my background has been hairdressing. I've done that since the age of 14. I've had a Saturday job and kind of worked up in salons. And I got to a point where I didn't want to, I didn't really know what to do next. I was salon manager and it was kind of like open my own shop or go into teaching. And I didn't want to open my own shop. I didn't want to do business. So that's really interesting. I then decided to go down the teaching route, never quite did it because I decided to have a child. So I've got a 5-year-old daughter as well. And in that time, on maternity leave, my husband was made redundant. And in that moment, we had a choice to make. And that was, do we do what he was already doing for ourselves, or does he go find another job? And so we did the first thing. We set up our own business and accidentally become business owners, and kind of ever since have been working for ourselves, building up that business. And then through networking, which by the way took me a very long time to start doing, it took me 2 years to go to my first networking event, because as you already touched on, I am quite a shy introverted person, and that, am I allowed to swear? I don't know.
Yes, you could swear.
that shit is scary. for somebody who's not done it before, like, it totally is quite daunting. So I attended my first networking event and did a few of those, and then eventually met somebody who introduced themselves to me as a property investor. And then it blew my mind. So I went down the rabbit hole, and 2.5 years later, I have now been working in the property space alongside my other business. I've got a couple of rent to service accommodations. I've got properties that I've secured on lease options, so creative strategies of acquiring property, and done a refurb here and there. So that is me in a nutshell. Oh, and now I run my own networking event as well. So like network introvert to network host. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? And how funny is that it took you a year to actually go and network to begin
2
with?
years.
Excuse
2
me,
years.
I'm so sorry. 2 years.
Right.
It took you 2 years to go and actually network, and then you ended up running your own one.
Yes. And that kind of goes back to the thing that I commented on earlier about pushing myself out of my comfort zone and doing things that make me a bit scared. I run the networking event first and foremost because it scared like the daylights out of me. And if I ran my own networking event, it would force me to not be scared of those sorts of things anymore. And it was a platform for me to help others as well. So it was kind of kill two birds with one stone. And yeah, now I'm hosting events with 60 odd people, 40 odd people, different numbers each month, and that's that. So
Amazing. And this is what I really want to inspire listeners with, because I speak to a lot of women and men in the property industry, and they're quite fearful about going to networking. I don't know what your advice actually, Heather, would be to this, which I'm going to ask you now actually before we carry on with the podcast, which is a lot of people will say, well, I'm new to property. I don't even know what I would talk about. I don't even know what I would say. Who wants to listen to me? What would your advice be for somebody not sure whether they want to go networking, why they should do it?
So first of all, I'm still that person. If I go to a new networking event, I still don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like, yes, I've done some property stuff, but I'm not, I'm not some real high up person. So I still have those thoughts and feelings and anxieties, I guess you could say. But I think some advice I would give is, if you can go with somebody, or somebody who's going to be there, then that sort of event is definitely going to be beneficial to you. If you know someone, if you already know that person's going to be there, cool, because then you can kind of gravitate towards them. And what we don't want to do is hang out with that one person all evening and then not network, because that sort of defeats the point. But it does give you that little bit of a security blanket, I guess you could say. Or obviously, if you're taking somebody with you who is that security blanket, whether it be a friend or a partner, or otherwise. So that sort of be one thing. And also, like, don't put yourself under that kind of pressure of what should I tell people. Like, if you are new to property, or any business for that matter, say that. Like, people don't mind, people aren't going to judge you. And I find the best sort of networking is actually being the listener. So just, you see that huddle of people, they're chatting away, and you just kind of, you listen, and you just like add little bits in, and that feels quite comfortable and can really ease you into the sort of the process of networking, and takes the pressure of you having to do the elevator pitch. I've never done an elevator pitch, but like, it takes that away.
I love that. That is so beautifully worded. Absolutely. And also, what I would say to others who maybe are a bit more seasoned networking, or even just a bit more comfortable, I was at a networking event recently, and I could see this girl at the side wanting to almost come in. We were like a group of, I don't know, like four, just chatting, and she was just on her own at the side. Just, she wanted to come in, but she wasn't quite sure how to do it. Like, if you see somebody like that, just take your arm out, or like a wing almost, and
Yeah,
just be like,
absolutely.
come on, come into the conversation, which is what I did. And as soon as we got her in, she was absolutely fine. So if you do see somebody like that, also reach out to them and try and encourage them in from that perspective.
Yeah, 100%. And
Do it
just
all together.
like, I don't know, maybe I'm the wrong kind of networker, but I don't always talk business. Like, I will happily ask you what dog you've got and what are the things that you enjoy outside of work, because I think relationships are better built on those sorts of foundations, rather than just how many deals have you done? Like,
Oh,
what's your
such
numbers?
such an excellent point. Do you know what's really funny? I said this to somebody the other day, because I'd done quite a lot of speaking events in a very short space of time,
Mhm.
and so I was getting really bored of repeating myself and having the same conversation over and over again. And when they tried to talk to me about property, I remember saying to them, "Can we talk about something that isn't like is unrelated
Yeah.
to property?" And they were really taken aback by that. But I was just so bored of it. So I was like, look, who loves to travel? Can we talk about travel? Can we talk about dogs? Can we talk about anything? And actually, what was really interesting is when we got on the subject of travel, they were like, I didn't know that you did that. And then that conversation then came about. And I always say we are so much more than just business owners, property investors. We also have children. We also have lives. We also have so many other things that interest us. It's like, well, can we actually learn about those things as well?
Absolutely, and you will build better relationships on those, because as the saying goes, the whole know, like, and trust thing. If you do know somebody quite deeply in that sort of respect, then you're just going to be able to trust them more and do more business together. So, and even if you don't do business with them, there's referrals and things like that. So it all helps.
Yeah, I
It
love
paints a
that.
good picture around you.
It does, absolutely. And then, Heather, what are you celebrating at this moment in time?
So what am I celebrating is probably actually gaining some clarity about what it is that I want to do, how I want to take my property business, and yeah, getting really clear and focused on that. Because I find, and you might relate to this, and I'm definitely sure there's people that will be listening that will relate to this, is you kind of start out in this thing called property, and property is a very loose term. Property can be building skyscrapers in London, or it could be doing a rent to rent in Kettering. Like, it could be anything. And I didn't have much clarity starting out. I thought it was a necessity for cash flow, and then I sort of switched and was like, is that really what I want? Do I like hospital? All these things. And so, yeah, gaining clarity is the thing that I am celebrating.
I love that. I love that. And what do you want to say what you think your clarity is, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I just touched on, I originally thought I was sort of doing this for a cash flow, from the cash flow perspective. And don't get me wrong, that's great. But I soon realised that my other business is my cash flow business, and that's cool. So, um, what I've become really clear on is what excites me in property, and it's actually the thing that always excited me since I was sort of a small girl, and that is the transformation process. That is beautiful buildings, character buildings, whether they're a Victorian, terrace property, down a nice avenue, or whether it's a more sort of like cottagey type place. It is those transformations and turning that into like this beautiful home that somebody can enjoy, and bringing the character back to life. Like, no disrespect to anybody, but I am so fed up of grey. So bring back more warmth. I love character buildings. I always have done, and so I want to bring more of them back to life, basically. So that helps me in my long-term sort of goal of capital appreciation and sort of bigger chunks of money, but also that thing that does excite me. And yeah, even like I did a refurb earlier in the year, and that property is running as an SA. But the parts that excited me were seeing the bathroom ripped out and it looking really nice again, and then the furnishing part, great. But now I'm like, okay,
I'm done.
next. Yeah, like, it's great that it's a cash flowing house, brilliant, and obviously I'm super grateful for that. But yeah, what actually excites me is seeing that transformation. So I've got really clear on that, and gonna hone in.
I love that. And that's a really beautiful thing to celebrate, actually, and something that's actually quite difficult it doesn't come, I don't know about you, but because we started at a similar time, I remember us sitting in that classroom together next to each other, these like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, kind of like, yay, let's learn. And
Yeah,
it's very overwhelming, isn't it, when you're starting out? Because I don't know
it
about you,
is.
Heather, but I felt like all this information was just being chucked at me, and it's quite overwhelming. You know in your heart that you want to do what you think is the term property, as you said, that could be
Mm.
anything, and you want to be your own business woman, man, that. But then it's like, well, how do I get there? And you try. I think what's important to say is you've always got to do trial and error within this
Yeah,
industry. I don't know many
yeah.
people who've just sort of landed and gone, yep, I'm done.
No, absolutely. And for a lot of people, you're not necessarily starting this business with absolutely bucket loads of cash or anything like that. So, kind of buying a £800,000 beautiful character property isn't necessarily where you're going to be starting. And yeah, I haven't done that one yet, but I'm working towards it. So you do sort of think maybe there's other things to do first. And like you said, when you're attending property trainings or webinars or reading books or listening to podcasts like this, there's so many different ideas, and they're all really great ideas, but are they the right idea for you? And I do think there is, like you said, a case of trial and error. Like, you're not going to get it right the first time. And just to say that I'm not excited about my essays doesn't mean that I haven't got it right. They're doing what they need to do, and that's brilliant, and it is bringing in that sort of cash flow that is building up, and that's fantastic. But actually, yeah, what's going to really make me buzz? And
Yeah.
I think because this is the business that I'm building up alongside my main source of income, it's got to excite me.
And do you know what? I don't know about you, Heather, but this is what I think is the secret, because in property and in business, both of them, you have to, in order to grow it and to get to where you want to be, you need to be consistent with it, and you need to keep going. And I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of people who were so consistent at the start, and then they just fell off. They literally
Yeah.
just fell off and just went, this isn't for me. And I think the reason they fell off is because what they were doing didn't light them up inside. I think
Yeah,
that's what the secret is. You have to do things that are aligned. I always talk about this, that are aligned with your personal values and
Mhm.
what your personal objectives are. So now I stand on stage and I say, yes, I'm a property investor, but I'm a lifestyle investor. Like,
Mm.
what do I want in my life,
Yes.
and how do I want to live? Which is why I gave back the serviced accommodation units, which I've spoken about, because they no longer aligned with who I am and they no longer lit me up inside. As
Yeah.
shocking as it is, it doesn't excite me to be called out at 9 p.m. on a Sunday to go and fix things. Shocking. Um,
You mean to say that doesn't like fill you with excitement on a Sunday
no,
evening? No.
fills me with dread
Oh.
every. Do you know it filled me with dread every time my phone rang?
Yeah.
I started to have anxiety.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is not healthy. This, yes, it's cash, but it's not worth my soul.
No.
And I thought, no, this isn't for me. And so I love the fact you're celebrating that. I'm so pleased for you that you've got clarity, and I'm so happy for you, because I think that's such a peaceful way to live as well when you have
Mhm.
clarity. So yeah, fantastic celebration. I love that.
Thank you.
Um, what am I celebrating? Oh my goodness. I love it. I always
I'd love
ask
to know.
you, don't forget to come on with what you're celebrating, and I forget about me.
Yeah. Yeah, please do share.
What am I celebrating? Oh my God, there's so much happening at the moment. So last week I celebrated the fact that I went into schools to speak to 15 to 18-year-olds, which was brilliant, by
Oh,
the way.
wow.
Yeah, I went and spoke to these young women who are bloody brilliant, by the way. They're so inspiring. And I really want
Wow.
to get into schools. So I celebrated that last week. I'll tell you more about that, because that was brilliant.
I say I
In fact,
definitely
I'm going
want
to
to
do
know more.
yeah, I'm going to do a post about that, because I don't even know what I was expecting, but these young minds were so inquisitive and had so many ideas and wanted to learn. And I specifically did it for young women. I decided just to do it for the girls. And there were 40 of them in this room, all staring at me. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I say?
The most
What's
like
appropriate?
judgmental age as well. It's like, ah.
Oh, and you know, it's written all over their face. They can't hide their facial expressions. So if you said something that they disagreed with, they had like this weird scrunched up face. And you know what? In the end, I just called it out. I was like, okay, you're pulling a face. Why are you pulling a face? Like, what's your opinion on this? And then they told
Mm.
me their opinion. And I was like, fantastic. Let's have a conversation about that. And I think that it should be encouraged to speak and to think, well, what is your opinion? So I celebrated that. So that was amazing. I've got some really cool. Do you know, there was a really cool thing that happened to me that I can't actually announce until January. They were like, you can't announce this till January. And I was like, that feels like forever away. So I've got a
Yeah.
really cool thing there, which will be announced. I've, of course, got the gala coming up, which is amazing, at Christmas. And to be, oh, actually, I'll tell you what I'm celebrating, because this is in line with yourself, actually, I think, in
Okay.
terms of what you've got going on as well. I have now been hiring staff for the
Ah.
business. Yeah. So not full time in that sort of capacity, because my business is still quite small. But I'm, as people know me listening to the podcast, I need help. I need extra
Yes.
hands. I just can't do it on my own. And now the business is in a place where I can afford to contractually hire people. So I now have a video editor. I now have somebody that helps me with my marketing, and I now have a specific email marketer as well.
That's amazing.
And what I thought was, when I was hiring people, I thought, one, what don't I like? What don't I think I'm that good at? And what do I want to delegate that I really just don't want to do?
Hmm.
And like email marketing, all of those are like such major ones that take up so much time.
Does.
So much time. And I know I can do it better, but I don't have the capacity or time to do it better. So therefore I thought, I'm going to have to invest some money in this business and myself to take it even further.
Yeah.
So hiring people is what I'd like to celebrate today, because obviously you've hired people in your business too.
Yeah, that's right. And honestly, congratulations, because like trust me, I know how tricky that is, how hard, like emotionally, like anxiety, like all of those things, because you're suddenly responsible for somebody else's bread and butter. And so for the listeners who don't sort of know my other business, I've got a company in garage equipment, completely different. I co-run that with my husband, and it has just been us for a number of years. The business actually been going 5 years. Like last week, 5 years it's been going now, and we hired our first two people this year. So that included a sales rep and an engineer. and they have both been super valuable hires, and they're fantastic people that are working with us now, and they've really sort of created this fantastic team together. Similar to you, it's like we're at capacity. We couldn't squeeze another job in, and also there is always that risk of putting all of your eggs in one basket. Like if something happened to either of us, it wasn't going to continue. The business couldn't continue. So actually getting people within the business and growing that has been absolutely detrimental. But it has been something that, I don't know, it's just kind of suddenly fell into place. Like suddenly feels right. I can't quite explain it. Maybe because I'm like that accidental entrepreneur. It was never, we didn't set the business up kind of with a strong business plan and went to the bank with our folders and like, this is the plan sort of thing. We just set a business up, registered it on Company's House, got a bank, bought a van, and off we went.
Love that.
And over the years we've built up a big customer base and got a really good support there. But like hiring people, like, can I afford them? I don't know. There was all, I do know that now, just for clarification. But when we've thought about it for a number of years, and that's always the question, like, can we afford them? Like, how do you hire somebody? How do you make sure they're happy? How do you make them stay? Like, there's all these thoughts that come into it, and we've just done it. I guess that kind of comes back to the whole jumping with 2 feet and just kind of going for it. And we just decided, right, we're going to hire this person, and then a couple of months later we're like, right, we're going to hire the engineer now. And yeah, it's now we're like, right, when's the next hire coming?
Yeah. It's like an addiction, isn't it? Because I feel like that. I'm like, oh, who else could I hire?
Yeah, and the thing is, because our first hire is a sales rep, like naturally the business is just snowballing. Like we've got more sales, more customers coming on, and we're selling a lot more equipment now in the garage equipment that we sell. So this is for like MOT stations, so all of like the lifts that your car will go on and things like that is that kind of equipment. If it's in an MOT bay, we fit it basically. So yeah, we're selling more equipment. We're taking on new customers for service work and calibration, and it's just snowballing. And yeah, we'll probably be hiring again early next year, I expect.
I love that. Rate. And that's what business is all about. And it's about taking chances and, just giving it a go and seeing what happens, whatever capacity that is. So it's amazing. It's so incredible. And I guess what's so interesting also is the fact that businesses, I always say to people when they say that they're property investors, I'm like, first and foremost, you are a business owner. Anyone who invests in property, I classify them as a business owner. So you already have had your business before and your acumen, as it were. Whereas other people might not necessarily have that. For example, you come from a business background of having that business of yours with the garage. I come from a corporate background. But yet we both then set up our own new businesses within the property investing and both took our transferable skills forward within that. So it's really interesting because sometimes I say to people, well, you are a business owner. And they're like, no, I don't have a business. And I'm like, but you have properties. So therefore you are a business owner.
But one thing I would like to kind of give the listeners the permission is almost like don't think that you need to come from a business, having a business before, or from the corporate background, because like I do this myself all of the time. I compare myself to the property investor that has worked in banking and finance, and I'm like, oh well, of course they're going to be great. Like they've got finance knowledge. Like like I can barely add up. Yeah, I can, but you know what I mean. And or I compare myself to the builder who's always been building things like walls and I don't know, whatever it is they build. And we don't always have to have that transferable skill that you think it might need to be, because that can be quite daunting, I think, for somebody to go, oh, I'm listening to this girl Heather and Athena on this podcast, and she already had a business and she come from corporate, and I'm just me, and I've always been like that. I'm just a barber. That's my background before. I'm just a barber. Like I cut hair, person sits in my chair, next person sits in my chair, next, and it was quite simple. I did manage a salon, and there's other things that come with that. but it was a small salon. It wasn't, Tony and Guy or something like that. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure that the listeners didn't think that they needed XYZ skill
I think that's
necessarily.
I think that's beautiful that you've said that, and thank you for saying that. What I would ask you then is, what do you think that they do need? They don't need those. What do they need?
I think you need a drive for something, whether that be your own financial independence, whether you're building a nest egg for your children, whether you do just want to do something that excites you. Maybe you're just so bored in your, day-to-day job and life or whatever it may be, and you just know that this thing, whether it's property or anything else, maybe it's a bakery or something, but you've got this drive and desire to do something and push you forward, because like it does get really hard. I cry on a regular basis about the stresses of work and business, and the strain it puts on family as well. Like we can be like passing ships in the night at times, and the stresses that comes with work can cause frustrations within a relationship or family or friendships and things like that. And yeah, you've just got to have something that's pushing you forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. You got to have that, again, that fire in you and your why. People talk about the why all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Heather, but my why constantly changes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like literally I could have my why one year, and then the next year I'm like, that's not my why. My why is actually this. And I
And I
think
think
that's
that's
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's okay, because I've done the same, and I've, like you said, with like the lots of impressions that you get from other people and
Yeah.
ideas and inspirations, like that can pivot you a little bit, and as a result your why might change as well. But I do think that's okay, and as somebody, like, my why has changed multiple times, and that's probably why part of my strategy has changed as well.
Mm.
But I'm sort of okay with that now, and I think other people should be too,
Yeah.
because life is an ever evolving thing, and if we stay with, like, once upon a time our why was just to be able to walk to go get the biscuit off of the counter, right, when we were toddlers or something, why is it constantly changing?
Exactly. And I love that analogy. Absolutely.
I mean, I'd still happily go get the biscuit.
Oh, all the time, of course. So if we were to think about this then, because the reason I really love the fact I've got you on this podcast, Heather, is because I want to show the listeners that yes, I get people on who have got 7, 8, 9, 10 years experience, whatever. But sometimes I can feel quite unachievable because, let's face it, the market's different. And when they started to get into property, it was a different world, and pre-COVID and all these things. So what I really want to get from our conversation is, when we were both sat there at that table together on that 3-day course, learning about all these different strategies, what do you think then when you walked out of that door for you? Because we left at the same time. We both went on our own journeys, but always seemed to come back and gravitate towards each other. What do you think that you thought to yourself, right, this is my next move. This is what I've got to do to take me from where I am stood here coming out of this course to where I want to be? What was like your first moves, or your first thought process that you had to do? And what do you think is like the what am I trying to say? The kind of the right ingredients then to now get you to being sat here doing the podcast with me today? What do you think has been that journey for you?
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one, isn't it? Because there's so many things. A lot of it has been mindset for me. I keep saying it, jumping in with 2 feet, putting myself in positions that I'm scared of, and figuring it out, basically. Cry later sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of it has been mindset, because you do come away from a lot of courses being like blown away, and they're amazing because you learn all these things, and you realize it's all possible. But to then come away and go home where either it's just quiet, you've got nothing going on at home, or you've got a crazy household, children, dogs, whatever, that is me, and lots of other things. It can be really easy to just go back to your normal life and go, that was cool, now I've got to carry on with life. And so I think the mindset around feeling confident of doing the next thing, and that next thing might be the set up your business, it might be leafleting or whatever, whatever thing that is that you've maybe learned on a course or something. But yeah, mindset has been a massive part of trying to help give myself the confidence, knowing that I can achieve things, teaching myself that I can achieve things, and kind of reflecting on the successes. And in 2.5 years, there's people that have done way more than I have. Like, there's no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that people have done way more, got more properties, maybe raised more finance, done more deals, that sort of thing. But trying not to compare on those things. I don't know if I've just gone on a massive tangent.
No, but you know what? Even if you did go on a tangent, which you didn't, it's because it is a roller coaster. It is so mindset. I always talk about mindset. You know I do. Like, mindset's really, really key, because it's so tricky. And I think that what happens is so what I hear a lot of people say is that they go on these courses and then they don't really do anything with them, because you said it beautifully. You go back to your reality of what your life looks like, whatever capacity that is, and you almost don't know how to almost take that first step because you've got a full-time job. For example, a lot of people that I mentor have got full-time jobs, and they're like, the thing I struggle with most is I want to leave my full-time job, I'm unhappy, but how do I do everything else that needs doing, such as having my own, having to do my job, having to run the household because I have kids, and then on top of that, trying to start this own business thing. And they feel like it's almost impossible or completely overwhelming, and so they therefore don't start. Can you
And
kind
you
of relate to
mentor
that?
all women?
No. I mentor men
You
and
do?
women.
Okay.
Yeah, both.
So I was just going to ask, do you find that with the women that you mentor, that actually the ones who might be in relationships might then struggle to put their needs and their desires first in terms of growing their business, because the husband maybe is the breadwinner in the family or something like that? Because
Do you know
that
what?
is something that
It's been a real mixture, actually. Sometimes I have it that the female is the breadwinner, which I love.
awesome.
And I'm like, so she feels the pressure, but they're unhappy. They're unhappy in what they're doing, and so therefore they want to leave that. But because they are the breadwinner, they're so busy in their job, and they've got the children as well. Yes, of course, the because she's the breadwinner, the partner maybe does a bit more, but at the same time it's quite challenging. I also have single mums as well that I mentor, where they have to take on all of it all together. And also guys, I mentor guys in similar boats where they then have that. So it's I don't know about you, because obviously with your networking, do people ever say to you like, I don't have enough time,
Oh
money,
yeah, like not
knowledge?
having enough time
Time is the
is the
biggest one, isn't
common
it?
thread between every single person ever, I think.
So
And
how did you do it then? Because when you started, yeah, but it's important to say, because when you started, I remember you had your business, you had your garage business, and
yeah,
you've
so
got your daughter and the dogs.
and the dogs. Yeah, I've got 2 dogs.
Yeah.
um,
What did you do?
uh, so I was in a position where I appreciate not everybody can be in. So I wanted to just put that in place, put that out there for context. Obviously, I already had the business that was growing with my husband, and I, like, at that point it was just us in the business, and I was doing kind of the financial sort of stuff, the bookkeeping, the admin, all of those sort of like just typical things that isn't working on spanners basically. And I decided to outsource that, like to allow me time to do this. And I got a freelancer in who took on all of that work. So I didn't employ somebody straight away full time, but I did get a freelancer, which freed me up a load of time to be able to do property, go on the viewings, research and analyze deals, and all of that fun stuff. My daughter was in preschool at the time, nursery, preschool, one of the two. I think they're the same thing. And she was there 4 days a week, so that gave me the time, obviously, while she was there. And then, as for the dogs, I can walk them whenever. But I managed to make that time as a result. But I appreciate that a lot of people are in full-time jobs, and or a full-time parent or something like that. So trying to look at your diary and kind of work out when you feel alive, because like for me, 3-4 in the afternoon, I'm pretty dead to the world. I'm worn out. I seem to have a bit of a dip in my day, and I can't do much then. So kind of looking at the times in your diary where you have got the energy and you can free up time, whether it be, maybe you've got children, maybe it's childcare of some description, a club or grandparents or friends or a babysitter or similar, or obviously around work. So I appreciate people do like 9 to 5s or whatever that may be. So going, right, what time can I slot in? Is it getting up an hour earlier? Is it staying up an hour later? Is it working on my lunch break? But just trying to find those little snippets of time and being okay that it's not going to happen as quickly. Like, if for some people their desire is to get out their job within 6 months, and they have got the fire, the sheer passion, and they will make it happen. Like, I know people that have made that happen. It's totally possible. It's not something that I had, myself. I wasn't like, right, yeah, let's go crazy sort of thing, 10 essays by the end of November or whatever. But some people will, but it's also okay if you don't want to be that person. So
Yeah, that's so interesting, and being on your own journey almost. I really like what you said there, which was a really valid point that you made, which is be okay that you will get there. You might just not get there as quickly as someone
yeah,
else who is able to give, all of their time. You might be able to give
absolutely.
60% of your time, so you'll go at 60% of the race, whereas they can go at 100. And I think that's so important. But what I will say is this, and I've watched it too many times now, I really have. Here's my advice that I would give. A lot of people, and I talk about this a lot, right? People think that what they see on social media is all true, and this person is this incredible Hulk and they're really bossing life, and look at them go. I cannot tell you how fascinating this year has been, where I have gone and spoken at events. I have gone and gone to networking, and we've ended up in the bar at 2 a.m. when they've had a couple of drinks, and suddenly they start opening up to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's not as rosy as it maybe appears, and it really makes me question things, because I'm like, I thought this and I thought this, and that isn't the case at all. And what I would say is don't 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 ever get so consumed by what other people are doing, like, honestly, because you just don't know what's actually happening. Just do you. Use social media in the right way to do whatever you need to do. If it's attracting investors, do that. If it's just because you want to, for showcasing, do that. But really just hone in on how you want to do it, I would say. And the other thing is my point is, you'll see people who are supercharging their business and they're going a million miles an hour. Trust me, I've been there, I've done it. You've seen me go a million miles an hour. You naturally have to come to a halt because you get burnt out and you exhaust yourself. Like, there's only so
Yeah,
much your body can physically take for you to then go, I can't do this anymore. So
yeah,
the advice I now actually give to people is just go slow and steady. Because if you go slow and steady, but at a consistent pace, you actually take over the other person who is going really fast. And obviously, there's a whole tortoise in the hare analogy. The hare like rushes to the end, and the tortoise is there in the background, just going, "I see you. I'm coming. I'm coming." And then they
mm,
end up taking over and winning the race. And so that's okay. There is no get rich quick scheme. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. There is no you know, let's do this really quickly. It's like, well, no, consistency does pay off, and go at
yeah.
your own pace. I just think it's a more sustainable, ethical, healthier approach to take, and to have fun along the way. Heather, did you ever listen to the podcast I did, which was Cultivating a Growth Mindset, which I break down crying on the podcast?
Oh no, I
Uh,
haven't heard that one. I would have
so
remembered.
it's a solo episode I did. It was just me. I was having a really, really bad day. Somebody had cancelled the podcast, so therefore I did a solo episode. And I was talking about the fact that I was working so hard, which I was. I was in a deficit at that point in terms of my energy levels. But I stayed consistent. Monday morning, I got on, I did a podcast. But I talked about the fact that I was no longer enjoying the journey that I was on. And it made me so sad because of me saying it. The reality was actually coming out, which is what brought tears to my eyes of going, I'm working so hard, but I'm sleepwalking through this whole experience, and I'm not even celebrating what I'm achieving. Like, I was achieving incredible things and I wasn't even celebrating them. I was just on to the next thing. And that's not healthy. That's not a healthy way to be. Whereas now, okay, I'm going so much slower, but I've given back all my rents. Thank the Lord. I'm now at the gym. I'm now not having anxiety when I'm looking at my phone. We spoke before I came on the podcast about the fact that I was meant to be doing one of these HMO conversions and it fell through. And it's one of the best things that's actually happened because it's made me realign what does light me up? What do I want to do? Is it that I want to outsource something to somebody else 4 hours away, or do I actually have the builders, contractors and agents in my area that I want to do one 10 minutes away? And I'm like, actually, I want to do one local to home. That is what I want, and invest in my area. And so it's all about aligning ourselves, isn't it? And really thinking, what is my journey? How am I sort of going to do it? And I was that person that came from a corporate life and had to do a job whilst also doing a business. And I speak about this where I got home at 8 o'clock at night. I would schedule the emails to go out at 8 o'clock in the morning to the agents. I'd get all the letters ready. I'd post them on the way to work. You just find ways, don't you? I suppose when you want it, you find ways. I don't know what you feel about that.
No, so I've got kind of three things that I want to touch on from what you've just said.
Sorry, I went on a complete ramble.
No, absolutely not. But just on the thing that you just said about, we find little ways. I'm going to bring it to fitness. So for me, like, I'm going to be completely honest. I am the unfittest I've ever been. I'm the biggest I've ever been. Like, I'm just not overly happy in my general health and well-being. And it's the time thing. Like, I don't have the time for the gym. And, it's true to an extent. But what I do have time for and what I make time for every single day is to walk my daughter to school. And so what I decided to do was start to run to school, or at least run back after I dropped her off. So just getting that little bit in, that slow and steady, I'm not doing like a 5K every 2 days or something, but I am just chipping away like half a mile kind of every few days, and that will increase. And actually, I have now booked myself a race for next year. I'm doing a 10K, my first 10K. I've not ever done a 5K, so that's going to be interesting.
Oh,
well, and I'm now
done.
training for that. Thank you.
That's huge. But you, again, throwing yourself 2 feet in the deep end. Love it.
Yeah. I was like, it's done. So I just wanted to comment on that about just finding little ways to put habits into your life, whether it's, I was on a retreat recently, and one of the sort of the key bits of advice I think a lot of people took away was having a ceiling and a floor. And that is, yes, the ceiling might be to do 2 hours in the gym, but actually, can I just run to school and back? That's the floor. So set the ceiling. Yeah, you want to achieve 2 hours, but actually just running half a mile back from school is enough. And, it's still working towards your goal. And I love that. And that was brilliant. And
that's such an important thing to say, actually. Let's create achievable and realistic goals, which is, I can't get to the gym for an hour today, but I certainly can run back from dropping my daughter off at school. And therefore,
because all that is putting your trainers on instead of my boots,
Yeah,
that's
put your trainers on and just
in my
back.
jeans. I don't mind what it is, it's just that little thing, isn't it? Like, everybody can do that.
That is, I love similar. That, Heather. I think that's so important, and I can take that away as well. Me, I have one of those personalities which is all or nothing. So it's either an hour in the gym or nothing. And actually, if I can just do 20 minutes exercise, that is a win for the day. It doesn't have to feel like a loss that it wasn't an hour and it was only 20 minutes. So actually, I'm going to take that away today. So thank you
10
for that.
squats whilst cleaning your teeth, things
Love
like
it.
That.
Do I'm going to send you a video of me brushing my teeth doing 10 squats.
Yes. I'm not a health coach, but there we go, world. You have that piece out of me.
I love that. And what were the other things you were going to say?
Yes, the other things was one about celebrating successes. So that's something that we've not been very good at ourselves. So obviously, hiring one person is quite a big deal for us. Hiring 2 people in the space of 2 months is huge. And we haven't successed that. That's really bad English. We haven't celebrated the success of that yet. And that is something that we've got to make sure that we do. And so by putting those little things in place to make sure that once we hit something that that we've achieved, we do celebrate that, whatever that may be. It might just be, a takeaway, or it might be going out to the spa for the day, but making sure those things are in place, because that reflection is almost like a driver forward as well. And then the other thing was social media. I've got a complete love-hate relationship with social media. I love it because, I'll be honest, I've got all of my deals through social media. All 3 property deals, including my lease option, are as a result of my social media presence and communication and things like that. But I also hate it. And I hate it because it is all consuming for a lot of people, including myself at times. And I have to put processes in place to make sure that I'm not absorbed by social media, and also not comparing myself to others on social media, because, as you touched on, there is so much, rose tinted glasses with social media presence. And I had a friend whose life on the internet was absolutely glorious. It's lovely, but actually, behind the scenes of social media, that life was not the one that was portrayed online, and was quite different, actually. And that's fine, but I like to think myself as quite an authentic person, and I try to put a lot of the realities on social media, but it is quite hard to do, because nobody likes airing their dirty laundry out on socials, or making a fuss, or maybe you just don't want the attention. Like, I'm not somebody that's like, oh, I want lots of attention for this. Like, it's not me. But yeah, trying not to compare with that, because it can be really tricky, and maybe have the mindset of being more of a producer than a consumer. And that's something that I've had to put into practice, and I slip off of that. Definitely not perfect, but trying to put more out there as opposed to consume it and then feeling crap for it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And do you know, I've changed my approach recently as well. So I used to be this person where I used to think to myself, I get a lot of direct messages from sort of girls and guys, but mainly girls, because of Girls and Property. And I'd be having a bad day, but I used to think to myself, oh, I'm the face of Girls and Property. I'm a positive person. I need to always be positive. I always need to be showing to be having this positive outlook on life, and yay, go me. And actually, that's how I thought I used to be. So I'd be having a bad day, someone would be telling me that they weren't feeling that great, and they're like, how are you? And rather than telling them the truth of how I am, I'd go, yeah, I'm great, all is well, like, hope you're okay, because I thought that's how I was supposed to be. And
Hmm.
actually, what I've been doing recently is actually telling people, when people say to you, how are you, I'm like, today's actually a pretty tough day, this happened. I'm
Mm.
not really feeling it today, this happened. Or quite frankly, I'm not really feeling it today, I'm on my period.
Yeah.
Simple things, simple things. And the response has been so beautiful with that, because I feel that everyone is able to relate to me more. Because I think sometimes people think that people like me and you, who put on these events and put ourselves out there, that sometimes we're this superhuman alien. And it's like, we're not. We're human beings with feelings, and we're not always okay. And I think that's important to say. We don't always have to be okay. People don't always have to be okay. And it's always important to almost recognize that within ourselves,
Yeah.
and not see it as a weakness to say, actually, today I'm not feeling it, and think, well, what would make you happy? A walk in the sunshine, a run home from dropping your daughter off at school, or whatever it may be. Just do what makes you happy, and you don't have to be 100% all the time. I think is a real secret that I wish I'd have known over my 2 years of the journey.
Mm.
And also, do you know what I will say is this, which I was so happy with it. So I went to Manchester recently, where Paul Stapleton and Danielle Jodie were doing their Manchester Property Social, and I was invited to come and speak on the panel. So I was honoured to do that, and it was Sean Davis, Paul Stapleton, and me on the panel speaking. And what I loved was, I'm at a stage in my life now, Heather, where I really, really want to cut the bullshit. I really do.
Mm.
And I'm kind of like, can we just have a meaningful conversation here, please? Can we actually just talk real life? And so when I was on the panel, I was really opening up about burnout and what burnout looks like and the reality of having a business and how consuming it can be within that. Because I've burnt out twice, and I was telling the story of where I was when I burnt out the first time. And there was a guy in the audience who put his hand up and he said, I'm so happy it was a guy. So happy it was a guy. He put his hand up and he said, can I just say thank you so much for sharing that? I nearly didn't come tonight because I'm experiencing burnout at this very moment in time. And the fact that you've just said that has made me feel seen and heard. And I really thank you for that. And that was amazing. And the fact that he was open to say that, I knew he was open to discuss it. So rather than just moving on to the next conversation, we then had a conversation about his situation. And then somebody a guy two behind him said, I'm also feeling really overwhelmed at the moment. And suddenly this whole conversation turned around, and it was guys. This whole conversation turned around for the guys to say how they felt overwhelmed. And I thought that was so important. And one of the ways we got over that to help him was I said to him, what have you recently done? And he'd done this amazing HMO project and conversion. And I was like, this is incredible. And I asked him a simple question, which was, what did you do to celebrate that? What have you done? And he said to me, I'm going on holiday in like 5 months' time. And I said to him, that's not a celebration. That is not what you're celebrating for your HMO. What have you done? And he's like, well, I haven't done anything. And I'm like, exactly. I was like, right, what are you going to do? I was like, what are you going to do? And he's like, right, I'll think about it. He messaged me the next day. He found me on Instagram. He messaged me and he says, hey, and he sent me a picture and he says, hey, just went out for the most amazing meal with my partner. Check it out. This is what we did to celebrate. And I was like, yes. I was like, how are you feeling? He's like, I feel so much better. And I was like, exactly. And this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the reality of burnout, the reality of what it takes. And it is hard, but it's so worth it. And as long as you help people along the way and we all do this together, I think that it's just such a more meaningful experience and much more meaningful connections rather than how many properties do you have? How much have you raised? How much have you got this? I'm like, I don't give a shit. I really don't care. Who are you as a person? What are your values as a person? Just means so much more, I think.
No, 100%.
So yeah, I loved talking about that and the fact it was a guy. So
yeah, I think sometimes guys, maybe I'm generalizing, but sometimes guys almost struggle to put that out there because there's almost this expectation that, you know, guys have just got their shit together, you know, like nothing worries them, like they're cool. But actually they also have thoughts and feelings, you know, and exhaustion and all the rest of it. So
well, yeah, we're all humans. And I'm seeing some fantastic content coming out from some guys at the moment, just keeping it really real as well, which I'm absolutely loving. So yeah, I think let's just make this industry, which is so unregulated, like let's just make it like really healthy, really anti-hustle culture, which I'm here for. I've been a hustler. I've done it. I've been there. I've done the whole 3 a.m. thing. I like my sleep, Heather. Like, I like sleep.
So do I. Yeah, the thing is, I think when you hustle as well and you start something new, because I know a lot of people that start in property, myself included, who are starting in this industry having no experience in this industry. You know, rent to rent is quite a typical one to start out with because it's sort of easy entry, quicker cash flow, not too much investment up front. So it is naturally where people tend to start. And like, there are people that will get it right, absolutely, but there are also people that take on too much too soon, and suddenly they're managing, I don't know, 5 to 10 properties, and they've got to have a maintenance plan for each one. They've got to have, maybe they're doing SA and they've got guests, or maybe they're doing HMO, and that's like a whole other kettle of fish. It's not something I'm familiar with myself, but you know, there's all these things, and there's compliance and there's rules and all the rest of it, and just general like being a good person. And when you're trying to juggle these things and actually you don't necessarily know what it is that you're doing because you haven't had that experience yet, maybe you're 6 months or a year in, like, and that's okay, by the way, to not have that experience and not have, you know, not to know all those things, because nobody knows everything from the get-go. But if you scale too quickly, suddenly you've got all these properties and all this stuff going on, and you're like, shit, I can't manage this, like this is too much. And then the cracks start to show and issues start to happen, whether it be, you know, you let yourself let customers down through your SAs. Maybe it's that you're not quite a compliant HMO anymore. Maybe it's just like the maintenance on your property has gone to nothing, and you've got leaking taps and other issues, so these things start to happen. And it goes back to the whole hare and the tortoise, isn't it?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
if you just build up slowly, you get into a good rhythm, and you build the processes and the systems, and you record those processes down, then you can just repeat it, whether that is SA, HMO, refurbing, or any of the other things within the property space. So just taking it steady.
That's a really good point you just made. Yeah, no, it's an excellent point you just made, which is don't try and grow too quickly. Yeah. Almost like, I'm going to go back to just a really easy analogy of you being a barber. If you've got one person in the chair and you're on your own, you can give that good customer service, you can give attention to detail. If you had 6 people in chairs and you had to go around 6 and you only had half an hour to do it, you wouldn't be able to give the level of attention to detail to that one hair.
They'd all be getting buzz cuts.
Yeah, literally, just buzz cut, done.
Sorted. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, if you started out in barbering, for an example, it's quite a simple concept to grasp. You don't go into being a barber and just can do skin fades, scissor cuts, what's the thing at the minute, mullets, all of these things. You're not just going to go into it and just be able to do all of that. Like, if you open up your shop and you're like, right, welcome everybody, I can do you all, and then you have all of those people sit down, you're like, shit, doesn't look so good. Ooh. Whereas if obviously you build it up over time, you practice and all the rest of it, you build a client base, then you've got the process of how to do the mullet, how to do the skin fade, as an example.
I love that. Do you know what? I've just loved this conversation, because what I always love about this podcast is I always say it's like as if there were a fly on the wall, we were having a cup of tea in the kitchen and people could just listen in, and that's what it is. And I love the fact we started our journey at a similar time. And we always gravitate back towards each other again and then catch up, and it's like, oh, hey again.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we did that challenge, didn't we, online, and that was very much like hustle, like go out and do loads. And I loved it, don't get me wrong, it's absolutely fantastic, and it does push you out your comfort zone. But actually, like, the reality of doing that day in, day out, week in, week out, it's just not the reality of life, really. So
yeah. Oh God, I remember that challenge. That was like 2 years ago.
It's exciting. It'll come up on my memories again soon, because I'm pretty sure it was around this time of year.
Yeah, it was but it was, because I was out there putting letters through people's letterboxes in the absolute pissing rain. Yeah. I remember I said, I'm not going out today, it's raining, and like someone was like, no, you got to go out even in the rain. And I was like,
we had a bit of friendly competition between us, didn't we?
We did. But again, friendly competition, accountability. You were doing it. I was like, Heather's gone out, I've got to go.
Yeah, I think actually accountability, you've just mentioned that, and that's one thing I've forgotten to mention throughout all of this is, asking me on like, the steps of doing things. Like, I'm going to be honest, I've had a business mentor for years, different mentors throughout the years, admittedly, but I have had multiple different mentors or guidance or accountability, and that has been a massive help as well. Somebody just that little step ahead of me, or a bigger step, whatever it may be. But that's been a massive thing, and even that friendly competition between you and I, that was a form of accountability. And like you said, Athena's got it out, like, I gotta go. Yeah. Let's go knock on some doors and get some houses.
I love that, and you're so right. I'm so glad you just said that. Just because I think it's a beautiful way to finish the podcast, which is continuous learning is something that I really advocate for always.
Yeah.
I've actually got mentors myself, so I've got 2 business mentors for completely different reasons that give me different advice about different aspects of the business spectrum. And then I've also now got my my life coach, but in terms of physical fitness as well. And I love that, and it's such a healthy way to be. So it's kind of like a nutritional coach, life coach, fitness coach, as it were.
Yeah.
And I love having mentors. I love it, because I always need to have a sounding board. I need to check things and go, am I right? Am I wrong? What do you think? And I think it's so important to have that. So continuous learning, I'm always going to advocate, because you never know everything. You just can't. It's impossible. So Heather, I've loved having you on. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you enjoyed your first ever podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's been great.
You've been amazing. And if people want to get in touch with you and find you, where can they do so?
So my main platform is Facebook. I am Heather Littleton. You will find me there. If it's Instagram, it's Heather Littleton Property. And yeah, like I've got my link trees and things like that on those. I've got public profiles, so you can find me and connect with me there. So that'd be great.
Amazing. And then, as always, I'm Athena Dobson _official. We are Girls in Property on Instagram. And of course, we have our Girls in Property community that you can come and join. We are now 75 strong, which is incredible. And our next meeting, yay! And our next meeting is going to be on well, it's usually the first Tuesday of every month. So that is going to be the Tuesday, the 5th of October. So next week. So yeah, come and join us. And then don't forget, we've also got the Girls in Property Christmas Gala on Saturday, the 7th of December. And community members get a 10% discount. It's going to be in Hertfordshire, Penley Manor. So make sure that you grab that. And then finally, because we spoke about mindset on this topic today as part of the podcast, I also do have a free property mindset accelerator course. So if anybody would like to get details of that, it's completely free of charge. Just DM me the word mindset and I'll happily send that over to you and you can get cracking with that and hopefully get your mindset in the right place. But Heather, thank you so much again. I hope you have the most fabulous week ahead. Got some exciting things. And
Yes.
yeah. And if you need us, just reach out to us, guys. But have a great week and enjoy yourselves. Thanks for listening.
Thank
Bye.
you.